Hey everybody, welcome back. Psychedelic here. Back once again from my Lawrence, Kansas trip. It was the second trip this time and probably going to be my last one this year. Um, the main focus was kind of just to branch out a little bit and just kind of seek different areas to potentially live in. Still kind of at that age where I could still spread my wings and still trying to kind of find my place in this world. So um, overall, it was okay. I was just kind of slightly underwhelmed, because my first impression of the town was pretty strong. I thought it was kind of a nice downtown area, but I didn't really get to explore the whole city itself, which I think it's a smaller population than Lincoln, but for some reason, man, that traffic was really congested, and I don't know, I was just kind of overwhelmed by that, the whole heavy traffic moving through. It's probably something I got to get used to, but me kind of living in small rural Nebraska all my life, I'm just kind of still warming up to it. I mean, I could still drive the interstate and all that, but as far as living in that environment, it's just a different story. So overall, it went pretty well. As far as record shopping, it's pretty solid too. So I think I'm going to do this maybe 2 or 3 parts. I think I'm going to start off with stuff I just found in Lawrence. I also headed to Kansas City and met up with someone. I'll probably mention that in this video, but I received one record from him, and then I will show the stuff that I picked up with him at this other shop. So we're going to start off with just the Lawrence, Kansas finds first, and then I found some stuff last night in Lincoln. Traded about $60 worth of records, so I'm just kind of purging some stuff right now, which, it's kind of hard to do when you love pretty much everything you've bought, So anyways, we're going to start off with this one though. Kind of left you hanging with this, the Plastic Cloud on Allied. What a banger. I did keep the liner notes and the little inserts from the reissue. This does play pretty well. I mean, it's plays about VG+. He did great at VG. Mainly just due to one track, which did have some rotational clicks, Face Behind the Sun, which, no big deal. It's not even my favorite track on the album, but you can hear them, for good 30 seconds or so, but I mean, for the deal I got this for, I'm not ashamed of picking this up at all, especially with it half out of pocket, so did really good on this one. Just a different phase of my collection right now. Picking something as big as this, so it's quite something. Just never thought I would have that. It's just crazy. So I don't have a whole lot for you, but I'm going to show this first one just to get it out of the way. I received this one from, if you guys follow on Instagram, Rad Jesus, also known as Justin. I've known him for about maybe 5 years or so on Instagram, and Facebook friends too, and just kind of met up that day. I think he says he watches my videos. I think he said that. We kind of exchanged things. He bought my Plastic Cloud and a few other goodies, and then he traded me with this one, Hearts and Flowers, with their second album, what is it, Of Horses, Kids, and Forgotten Women. This was originally on Capitol Records. This is still one I kind of like to seek an original of, but I just wasn't too... I was vaguely familiar with it due to one track, Ode to a Tin Angel. It's got a kind of a cool drum production to it thing going on, kind of a standout track. But I kind of was just listening to this in full for the first time, and this is pretty solid. I think it's kind of got some early country rock roots going for it. For 1968, I think it came out. Could be wrong. I think it was 68. This is a Four Men with Beards reissue, and oftentimes I've heard sketchy things about this label, but the records I've had sounded fine. This one does sound really good. And so if you happen to see this, Justin, thank you so much for hitting me up with this one. This is definitely one I've been trying to seek out, eventually. So like I said, kind of country rock. I've only spun this once in full, but it's got some harpsichord moments as well, some kind of pop writing. Psych influences are pretty minimal for the most part, so definitely will be spinning this more often though, for sure. And like I said, I'll be sharing the records I found with him part 2. So I'm just trying to keep this fairly short, but you know how those go. So on this trip, if you ever hit up Lawrence, Kansas, definitely seek out Love Garden Sounds because they have some excellent quality records plus some good prices as well. I mean, some of these prices, I even cut the sticker on one of these just to show you that I paid that price. So there was a couple upgrades this time around. This is one that I upgraded on. This is Puff on MGM. This is a stock copy, and I had an old promo copy on like a yellow label. There's 2 variations of the promo. There's one on the old MGM label, which is like a white label promo, and this is a lot cleaner. I would say it's like just a little step up from the promo that I had, especially for one track, I Sure Need You, which is kind of more quieter track, and I just wanted to have a really clean copy to play that track on. So, you know, if you had to pigeonhole my favorite style of pop psych, this is definitely one of them. It's got a whole whimsical, kind of playful mood about it, but it also gets kind of deep and trippy in some spots, and you know, has like a couple fuzz breaks and a couple tracks. So I love when pop psych records kind of just do a whole diverse range of different styles, and this is one of them. So one of my favorite records, Puff. And then you know how people, you know, kind of acquire their, you know, all these different pressings of their favorite album, such as Master of Reality, you know, Led Zeppelin 2. Those were the first 2 that came to mind when I was posting about this. And so I figured, you know, why can't I just collect the same or different pressings of my favorite album? This is Just OBrien and Jake. I finally got the Gearson copy. I kept the price tag to show you. I paid $12 for this bad boy. Which is insane because, you know, oftentimes you see them like for $35 for the longest time on Discogs. No way I'm paying that. So I was really happy to spot this. This is near mint shape. I would say, you know, because I have a Swedish bootleg, and this one actually has a little more clarity than that one. So it was very nice to have this, and I mostly picked this up just because of the liner notes and the awesome photographs within. And I probably won't go on too long with this one, but if you guys know my channel, this is like one of my all-time Desert Island records. If I had to pick like top 5 maybe. And this is like the originally intended cover, but they couldn't use it due to, like, you know, the cost of coloring, printing the covers in colors, so they went with that kind of sepia tone cover for the original one. So excellent lounge psych from North Dakota, of all places. Really cool background story if you guys don't know this. Fantastic. Then this is one I've actually been kind of seeking out for quite a while. You know, I'd kind of go on some different nature walks, you know, around my area and stream a whole bunch of different types of music that, you know, I never really engaged in with a whole lot, and this has happened to be one of them. I've been trying to look up for a US press for a long time, and I figured, you know, I'll probably find one in the wild, and finally did. This is Magician's Hat by Bo Hansen. I think this is the second album of the trilogy, you know, sort of making music for these different novels. The first one was like Lord of the Rings, which I've never read the book, don't know much about the movies myself, but apparently, you know, the music really reflects sort of the themes going on within, I'm imagining. I think Magician's Hat is also a book as well. I couldn't tell you, I'm not really too much into novels myself, but this came out in like '73, all instrumental, progressive rock. Got a few like Canterbury moves on here, but if you want to call this cheap heat, it certainly is. Got this for like $12, which is about the going rate, and it's just quality, class, progressive music. Doesn't really overwhelm the listener. It's got just the right amount of performers on here. It's got all the right ingredients, very well composed, thought out. And it's just like you keep going on this wandering path throughout the whole album. really magical piece of work here. It's on the Charisma label, so I'm very glad to scoop that up. It's kind of funny because this one I actually spotted last time I was there back in, I think, February, March. And it's kind of funny to still find this in the shop. So I passed on this one and I bought the other one, The Beat of the Earth. So I finally picked up on the Electronic Whole. Now I listened to this once ever since I brought it home, and I've listened to it maybe a handful of times beforehand, and this is kind of one of those records that, I don't know, it gets too self-indulgent, I think, and they just kind of try things that don't really fully work out too well or weren't really imagined, on the spot too well. It feels like it's very on the spot, very kind of spotty, and seems like these very long, drug out songs that are kind of hit and miss, really. So I have to give this like a few more spins, maybe. I may part with it, I don't know. But of the Phil Perlman works, this is probably my least favorite. I'd say, I don't know, it's kind of a tiebreaker between Relatively Clean Rivers and Beat of the Earth, but Electronic Whole, it's just got this kind of lo-fi-ness about it too that I just don't really vibe with, and it just sounds really murky and kind of dull inspired in some spots. Just my opinion, but for the price it's going for, I mean, you can't find it on Discogs, but for 15 bucks, I mean, I thought I'd scoop it up and give it another shot. I could say the same about this one. I haven't really spun this in full just yet, but I streamed some tracks online after I purchased this, and I thought to myself, what did I just do? I'm not really sure if this is my cup of tea or not. So this is Mckay from 1978, File Under Weed Burner. Gotta put that category in my shelves, I guess. I guess there's only like 300 copies that were originally pressed, and this is like a Lions pressing. Paid 10 bucks for a used copy, but I wanted to bring it back in the shop the next day, but I just forgot to, so I may part with this down the road, but again, gotta spin this again to get more familiar with it. I recall it's kind of like very quiet, sort of singer-songwriter like, but kind of folky. I couldn't really tell you a whole lot. I just remember streaming it, kind of spotty listen. I was kind of just vaguely listening in the background. I'm like, I don't know about this. We'll see what happens, but hey, I might turn around and like it. So I think Randy also recommended that one to me on one of his live streams back in the day. Then finally ending with this one. So this is like definitely the sort of folky stuff I'm into. So this one kind of goes back to my old VC days, like even before I was making videos. The old school VC was talking about this record back like at least 10 years ago. This is Red Hash by Gary Higgins. It's a Drag City reissue. I think this is the most recent repressing from 2021. Came with a 7-inch as well, which I think are non-LP tracks. Yeah, this is one I've been kind of after for a long time. Found it for a really great price. Like I said, they don't mess around at their shop when it comes to prices. I would have picked up more reissues, but I picked this up on my second trip there, actually, the next day. So, what can I say about it, man? There's a whole backstory to this one too. He was being sentenced to prison for just a minor drug charge. I think he ended up in this drug bust for marijuana and spent like 2.5 years at least in prison as this album was being released. So it's kind of spotty what happened beforehand. Like if he got sentenced and then recorded this, I'm not real positive on that, but certainly around the same time, 1973. So yeah, I think he's made like maybe one album since then, 1 or 2 LPs or musical projects, but it's very downer folk, psych folk influenced, very singer-songwriter, of course, but he's got, of course, very nice backing musicians, kind of in this sort of like very low-key chamber folk kind of vibes going for it. Some nice cello, a lot of rustic string instruments throughout, mandolin. Kind of reminds me of David Crosby's first album, If I Could Only Remember My Name. It's kind of got that similar vibe to it, kind of low key, and like he's kind of searching for something, searching for purpose or meaning in his life. Very solitude, very downer, very personal. So, private pressing back in the day, and sound quality is excellent. I think there's like one upbeat track. Otherwise, the rest is just kind of stripped down folk music. So, I think I do got one more 45 I want to share. This is one that I did pick up at one of the only 2 antique shops in the whole town. This guy had like a whole bunch of 45s laid out, and LPs, of course. And those are like my favorite kind of digs, like when they're really dusty and you never know what you're going to like pick up in these antique shops, especially if they're cheap. You just never know what you're going to come across. So this was a total blind buy. It turned out to be a really good one as well, 45. So I've uploaded the tracks onto my other channel if you haven't checked it out already. But this is Rickford Sola. How do you pronounce it? Zolkowski, and the Shepherds. On the Help label, Johnny, which is also that sort of traditional song, Johnny. I don't know my patriotic songs, but you know what I'm talking about. And then Poor Man's Thing on the B-side, which is actually the stronger track in my opinion. And I thought maybe taking this out of the shop, I couldn't find anything online about it. I saw one Pop Psych listing. As soon as I brought it home, it was like for 45 bucks. So I was like, ooh, maybe I got something here. And I thought it was going to maybe be kind of a country pop thing. Turns out to be garage rock / folk rock thing going on here. It's kind of got some semi-snotty vocals, very upbeat tracks. The B-side kind of reminds me of like maybe a Chocolate Watch Band in a way, but better. Yeah, definitely check out this B-side. I think it's the one that's going to be the highlight for a lot of you guys. It's on my other channel. Just search out that record there. Fantastic. It doesn't have really any fuzz breaks, but it's very, you can tell it's very garage, very young musicians playing on it. So, what a great blind buy. I mean, it was one of the best pieces I took from there, I think. It plays pretty well. It does look a little beat up, but it plays about a solid VG. Otherwise, stay tuned for part 2. Hopefully this weekend. We'll see if I'm busy or not. So, till then, thanks for joining and stay tuned.